Hi everyone and welcome to Triple M Adventures with Bill. Before we get started, please consider subscribing to my channel and possibly becoming a patron. This video is a review of the ToolkitRC M6 charger. Now let's switch over to the charger. I'm going to go through all of the settings on it and then we'll look at charging a 4S LiPo battery and discharging it. And then I'll come back and I will give you my summary of the charger. Now let's take a closer look at the ToolkitRC M6. I want to just compare its physical size to the M8S, which I recently reviewed. You can see this is a very tiny little charger. Now if we go to, I'll show you the outside of it, you can see the input is 7 to 28 volts, so it can go up to 6S. We've got a servo style connector there. We've got a USB out, and I assume that's where we can update the firmware. Then on this side we've got our output XT60 and we can do 2 to 6S we can charge. And on the bottom, I'm going to turn it upside down, you can see there's a big cooling fan there, so that will be interesting when I do the storage charge of the battery to see how loud this is. And there's some little legs to keep it upright, which is quite a good idea to allow the air to circulate. Now let's take a look at the charging menu. Okay, we are going to say OK, and this menu is very similar to the Toolkit M8S. Well, it's almost exactly the same. So what we can do is we can set up 3 batteries in all, but let's go into this one. We're going to click OK, and you can see we've got our options at the bottom to charge, discharge, or put into storage. But if we go up, we can change the batteries. I'll list the types of battery that this can charge a bit later. We can then change the voltage by clicking OK. We're going to go back down to 20, click OK. This I'm setting up for my 4S battery, this one. That's OK, and I've already adjusted the current to be 1C, so 1.5 amps. And there we go. So we'll just plug our battery in and we're good to go. So that's the charge menu. Let's exit. Okay, let's move on to the measure options and click OK. And we can measure a battery. Now let's do that. Let's plug this battery in. It's in storage at the moment. And clip it into here. Now I did find it a little bit tricky to get this connector in, but you just have to, I don't like forcing things, but it's a bit tricky, so just be careful with it. Now if we say OK, there we go. We see the percentage the battery of current of energy it's got there is 58%, and it's giving our independent cell voltages. Now I think if we unplug this, let's do the power supply, and it will still work. So there we go. So we can use it as an independent battery and cell checker. Let's plug back in. Okay, so before we take the battery off, I'm going to say exit. Let's unplug the battery, which is quite a tight fit. There we go, we can move that out the way. So that's that test done. So now we can output or input PWM, PPM and SBUS into this charger, which of course is quite neat to be able to check your receivers. So let's give that a go. I've got my receiver here, my Radio Master R168. Let me just turn my radio on. Okay, so there we go. So now I've already bound this receiver. So let's use our arrows to go across to SBUS. Now what we need to do is plug that into this side. Let's make sure we get this correct. It goes that way into the servo connector. There we go. And you can see it's bound. Make sure you can see that in shot. And then we're going to go OK. Now we can see that there we go. That's my channel 1 aileron. And then channel 3 throttle, and my roll, I'm sorry, beg your pardon, yaw or rudder, and then my elevator. So that's quite a neat feature so that you can check your channels, and you can see the figures coming up here. So that's very, very interesting. Now let's just unplug my patch lead there, put that out the way. Now let's move on to the outputs. Now, so we can output the same signals, PWR, PWM, PPM and SBUS. So let's go to PWM. So now we only have one connector for the servo. So I now presume it turns into an output signal. So let's plug a servo in with that way up. There we go. That appears to be picking up signal somewhere. Let's hopefully you can see that. Let's move this up. And this is the first time I've done this. The first time I'm doing it. And it's on camera. Okay, so we are going to go OK. And there we go. So we can manual. Or let's click OK. There we go. So it looks like we've got 3 modes. 2. And there we go. That's how we can check our servos. And obviously we can output SBUS signals as well. So there we go. We go to manual. I'm not quite sure. I suppose let's have a look at manual. Is that here? Yeah, I'm not sure how manual works. Okay, but anyway, let's go back, and that is the outputs done. Let's exit and exit. Now let's take a look at the settings menu. Okay, we're going to tap over and OK. So I'm just going to quickly go through these. You can always check the manual out for exactly what all these options are. We've got the lowest input voltage, we've got input power, safe temperature, and then the cutoff. So this would be if it takes a long time to discharge a battery and it's going too long, it will automatically stop. So it probably doesn't, so it doesn't overheat the system. Now the discharge mode, I had a look at the manual on this one because internal means it will dissipate the heat from discharging the battery via the charger itself, and then dissipate, with the fan, dissipate the heat. But if we click OK, we've got an option to recycle, which what happens, it takes the battery from the output and then dissipates it into the input. So you could have your smaller battery here and put your big LiPo battery on this side, and the energy will go from here to there, which is obviously quite a good idea because you're not wasting the energy. But the other option is I came across here was extra. It looks extra, which I presume means external, but I couldn't find in the manual what that meant. So, but anyway, it's quite logical these two are. So I would leave that on internal, say OK. Then we've got beeper idle 10 minutes, and we've got all sorts of other adjustments. SBUS value, width, it's set to width, backlight, buzzer, the style, continuous work when work off, and work completed at the end. And then you've got the language, and you've got OK to set back to default. So that's just a quick go through the settings menu, which you can go and look at the manual to see exactly what each thing does. And that is all the menus of this little charger. So now let's get on to the really good bit, which is the charging and discharging, and see how this little charger handles both of those processes. Now let's start the charger test. Okay, we are going to select that battery, make sure everything's good, that all looks correct, we're on charge, so we're going to say OK, and that is correct. So we started the test. I just wanted to show you, after approximately 3 minutes, the temperature of the charger has gone up to 44°C, but the fan has not come on yet. And after approximately 5 minutes, the fan's come on. It looks like it is again at 42°C, the fan comes on, but it's very quiet. And now we're 25 minutes into the charge cycle, and all the cells are at 4.19 at the moment. And the fan actually just switched off. But all the way through the charging process, it was not very loud at all. Okay, fast charging is completed at 29 minutes and about 40 seconds. And there we go, completed in 30 minutes and 55 seconds. Now we can click OK, and the meter is showing, the charger is showing 4.2 for all the cells. We can now get the internal resistances of the individual cells by clicking down, and then you can see them there. 7.5, 7.5, 9 and 8.3. Now let's compare the cell voltages from what was said on the screen of the ToolkitRC M6 and my multimeter. So let's just exit this. Got all the info we need. Unplug this one, move this out the way, bring it over here. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, I'm going to have to take the individual readings. Okay, I've got to write these down. 16.78. 16.78. Next one. 12.58. Next one. Whoops daisy. Oh, I'm pushing this in a bit too far. 8.38. And final one. 4.19. Oh, let's just check that again. 4.19. Right, I'm just going to put those into my spreadsheet. Now the results are that the meter was showing cell 1 to 4 at 4.2, 4.2, 4.19 and 4.19. So there's a slight difference in between the charger and the multimeter, but it's negligible, I think. Now let's discharge this battery. So we're going to click OK. We are now, make sure everything is at home. Key-dory, there it is. Oops, a daisy. Go back. Oh, too quick. Okay, and now we are going to choose storage, and let's see how long this takes. Okay, yep, 3.85 is good. Okay, and there we go. We're starting the process. I will skip right to the end unless the fan starts making a horrendous amount of noise. Okay, after 2 minutes and 6 seconds, the accelerator hit the floor. And the temperature went up to, well, at the moment it's 54 degrees C, so the fan is now on. So I suspect it's going to stay on all the time. And it is louder, much louder than when it was charging, but it's not horrendously loud. We're now 14.5 minutes into charging, and the temperature has gone up to 60 C. So it's actually quite warm, but it doesn't feel warm, the case. But it is running at 60 C at the moment. We're coming up to the end of the storage cycle. We're nearly at an hour. The cells are nearly at 3.85 and the unit is still running at 60 C, but it hasn't gone any warmer than that. And there we go, job complete. It did it in 66 minutes and 29 seconds, and it has put that battery into storage. Here are the voltage comparisons between the charger and my multimeter. And there we go, that's my charge test and my storage charge test. Now let's get on to the summary of the ToolkitRC M6 charger. It's not just a charger, it can do check your servos, it can also check your receivers, which is a really nice feature. The touch screen that comes on here, or the touchpad rather, is very good. I didn't have an accidental entry with it when I was using it. It worked perfectly fine. The screen quality is good and you can see all the information that you want. It's not particularly noisy, especially when it's charging it's not. It obviously puts the throttle down a bit in the storage mode and it gets a little bit noisier. Now, the advantage of this one over the M4 series is that this can charge 6S. Now I know a lot of quad pilots have switched over to 6S, so this would be an advantage of this one over the M4 series. It doesn't take up a lot of space. You can see that. I mean, it's a tiny little charger. It did get warm when it was charging. It got up to 60 C, but I felt the desk that I was filming on, and it wasn't causing any problems at all. Now, the one bonus of this over particularly the M4Q, and I did like that, I do like that charger, the one that can charge 4 batteries at a time, is this discharged the 4-cell 1500 milliamp hour battery in just over an hour, compared to 3 times the length of time on the M4Q. So it's a good all-round charger. It's excellent. I mean, you could buy 2 or 3 or 4 if you wanted to, so you could charge up 4 batteries at once. It obviously doesn't go onto the mains. It's an AC. It's not an AC charger, so you need to plug it into a supply. And I've been using for my test the ToolkitRC power supply that they sent to me. So now the important bit: would I buy it with my own money? Yes, I would. I would buy it with my own money. It's a great little charger. Does the job. Does it quickly. Charges fairly quickly. If you look at the comparisons between the other chargers that ToolkitRC chargers I've tested, it's up there with them. It discharges fairly quickly. Hopefully you don't have to do that too often. You get to fly your batteries rather than having to keep discharging them. But it is important because you obviously don't want to leave batteries in a full charge state. That's not safe. So yes, I would buy one of these. And who would I recommend it to? Well, anybody really, because if you're flying fixed wings and I've got a couple of planes here that need 5 cells, and so I would be able to charge it with this. So yes, I would recommend it. It is a decent charger. ToolkitRC did kindly supply the M6 for review. Thanks for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments section below, because I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. Happy flying. Bye for now. There is an affiliate link in the description below if you would like to purchase the product I just reviewed, which would help support my channel.